your like class. Just mute it for a second. Ron Flawed.
Yo. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
What's going on? How are you today?
Good.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Kitty. Look at you.
Go. Let's see.
Good. How are you?
Great.
You look powerful and empowered and beautiful and happy.
Thank you.
Is there a plug over here or not?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, moving around.
How are you doing, Michael?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Is it in?
No, I mean,
Oh.
no, we're gonna like to move it, this couch back.
Oh.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. All right, take this.
Put it now. Put it now. That's right there. All right. And we got you. We have you. Okay. Getting it going. Hold on, peoples. All right. What we got? There we go. Let's see.
We're ready.
Yeah, I know. I'm on a new computer, so I'm just setting up. I can't quite see like I normally can here. Hold on. All right, they're both there. You guys are. All right. Had to sign into a new one and rechange the settings. All right. Okay, obviously I literally just posted the thing, but yeah, a little late on that one. But if you didn't see it, the topic this week is validation through instant gratification. Anybody relate?
Yeah, like vacuuming, mowing the lawn, painting.
Yeah, like really cool, productive stuff like that. That's not what I would be talking about though. But yeah. So the lighter side and the darker side of this meeting. For me, the topic starts with validation. And I want to go over that just, for me personally, validation's been a constant in my life. Seeking it, wanting it, never really understanding why I was doing that. So I kind of told myself a different narrative about why I did anything, really. Told myself a story about my life, told myself a story about my upbringing. And then in turn told that story to everybody around me and then made that real. That was in my reality. So it wasn't that far off from the truth, but it was definitely manufactured by me to seek validation, I think, in others, to feel anything at all. I think the start was more like validating my presence, period. And then it turned into the point where I wanted to manipulate that into something that meant something to anybody. And in turn, giving me validation for myself. Right. So as Amber's witness, when I started my personal podcast, a while back. It kind of kicked off maybe the third episode in. It like blew my mind right away, and it's stupid to hear me say this, but Amber and I never had this conversation until last year, third podcast in, while it's being recorded live. That's not how my life happened. The story I've been telling over and over and over about my life and how I thought it went, it wasn't even close. It went from what I thought happened with my dad to like the year I was born, then he got in all this crap, and then, he got in shit and heroin and almost died. Well, none of that happened. And Amber informed me while we were in the middle of the podcast. We've never had this conversation. Informed me that happened the year before they even decided to have me. So a bit mind blowing that I wouldn't even been born. The story I was telling, I was already born, and then he got in the mess and they broke up. But the real story, which Amber informed me, was that after he got through that addiction thing, he almost died. They decided to have one more shot to try to make the relationship work, and then had me, and then broke up. So that was a mind trip, right? Taught me a lot about what I've been doing in life and how I've been doing it. But I think that the major thing it helped me with is help me understand that all I've been doing my whole life is seeking this validation. Jason, I know you just came in. I'm just talking about validation through instant gratification. So
Okay.
Talking about some personal stuff about validation of seeking out from other people in terms of what I did for a career, how I did my jobs, who I surrounded myself with, employees, relationships with my family, with girlfriends, my ex-wife, anything that was always centered around this validation of me, which is a little bit crazy because Amber knows me best here, but I wouldn't say that I'm a person that takes a lot, that wants a lot. I actually feel uncomfortable for a long time that anybody came near me with anything giving to me. I still to this day get a little bit of like nervous feeling if I feel something coming to me. Right. So Portia sent me a audio file today, and I knew already, I didn't know what she was going to say, but I already knew what it was going to be because I just know her now. And I had a hesitation of I didn't want to open it. And then I immediately did and listened to it. But the point is, it's still a little bit of that's still sitting right there. There's some scar tissue of, I don't even want to hear it. Sometimes I it's crazy because all I've sought out my whole life is validation. I want validation. I want to be seen. I want to be understood. I want to be heard. I want the people around me to give back what I give to them. I set really high expectations of what I think I should get back. And because I never express that well or receive it back, I am the one that gets the relationship let down. And in turn, I'm crushed again, move on to the next one. So weird looping vicious circle that I've done. But, I learned something these past few weeks. And for me, I'm very grateful for it. I mean, I've been forced in a situation that is forcing me to act on my own mouthpiece. The shit I sit here and talk about for the past year and a half, things, the stuff I talk about on podcast, the leadership work I try to do at my company, all this stuff I've said and that I seek validation through by sharing with people and hoping that it helps anybody or touches anybody or just anything, wasn't even there for me, right? Ironic that I couldn't do it, but these past few weeks have given me a little clarity on and testing me and putting me in positions to act on what I preach for the first time. And not because I'm saying out loud I should do it, it's healthy for me, but it's been forced on me, like fight or flight feeling. So it's been a great experience in that terms. So I was outside walking down by the river, and I had this session all talked about in my brain because I see it now happening and I want to do something about it. My validation, instant gratification was always sexual or leaned on a crutch, like somebody I already knew that accepted me, that I could say anything to. I already know I won them over. Even if I hadn't talked to them for a while, I'd use that. So if I felt like I wasn't being validated at work or my peers or in a relationship, I would go two routes. I'd go sexual route, which can be as minuscule as me going to a bar and trying to talk to a woman and see if I can get her attention, all the way to the extreme, just trying to sleep with somebody to see if I can feel anything from someone. And the other side of that, more leaning on the crutch of the safety net, is like reach out to the people I know that are never going to turn their back on me. They'll listen to me. I already know they respect me, and use that as the fake validation, right? Like I'll call them up and be like, let me talk, because I already know. So both of those were crutches for me for a long time. I mean, it was both instant gratification to try to validate the feelings I was missing. What I've learned now is the validation I'm seeking, that I'm actually seeking out, that I want, is so much less. Like what I actually need and want is so much less than what I've expected. And I don't know if that makes sense, but I think I never separated what I'd put out for somebody or something and what I should honestly expect back from that relationship that I created. I have the choice to choose people who are in my life. I have the choice who I hired. I have the choice to pick up the phone. I have the choice to be a better friend. I have the choice to ignore. I have the choice to do anything I want. And my choices were not allowing me to embrace the equality of that relationship. Right? If I over expect from somebody that's not able to give me those things from day one, and I knew that, and I know that, my choice, bringing them around, all it was doing was crushing me because I just expected it back and would never say anything. It wasn't like I walk up to somebody and be like, you're not giving it back to me. I would just let it wear me down so fucking thin that I would cut that out of my life. And not even with a warning. Just be done with it. And something Amber's always been on my ass about is people change. They're different. They're different times in different places. They're different times and different times of their life. They're different people. The time they were in your life is the time they were in your life. And maybe you were here and they were here, and it's just not right. It's not about cutting someone short or cutting them out though. So she's always on my ass a little bit about like, that was them then, or this is them now. And basically giving people chances. I just never did that because I let it like grind me so hard for so long of what they weren't showing up for me. Like, why is this person not bringing the same energies I'm bringing to them? Why are they not coming back at me the same way? And again, I'm preaching this forever, right? And I'm not even doing it. It's not like this is new. This stuff hasn't like crept in my head just now. I've always felt like this. I've always been like this. I give, but I don't verbally express the contract, right? I want to be upfront. The contract should be upfront with two partners in a relationship, friends, lovers, family. It should be upfront and clear so that both sides know what to expect, so that you're getting the full version of what they have to offer, not a failed version of what you expect from them. Is it unfair for me to ask you guys to just be everything I am? Yeah. Heck yeah. Because we're all different people. But my relationship with Portia has tested me. It's tested my ability to act on my own game plan. It's tested my ability to have any self-love like consistently and be like, look, I can validate myself if I fucking want to. Right? Like, I don't need to seek it out from people that are not willing to give it to me. But the people that are willing to give it to me, I have to lean back into. I don't have to be all of it. And Portia and I have had this conversation. I had to say honestly early because I was like, I felt bad because she brings a lot. And I can't keep up with that. So like I gotta like for a relationship for us to work, it's gotta be like, for one, I gotta be honest. And she knows that now, I think, right? I mean, but it doesn't stop you. You're relentless. You know, you're relentless with your care and love. Now, the important part for you is to make sure that you're validated in your own heart. And I think you're one of the few people that do that very well. I think before you reach out, before you send me something or Amber something or Jay something, I think you're already validating your own heart doing it. And it's not like you're sitting home like, what's wrong with these people? I haven't heard a response. No, you're relentless with who you are and what you're doing. But that is the key, I think, to validation, right? Like we want to self-destruct sometimes. I call burn down the house. Sometimes when I'm doing really good, I get in a mode of like, if I don't see the validation from somebody, I want to burn the house down because I'm capable of it. Right. And that's not an excuse. That's not an answer, but it's something I'm very capable of doing. And I've done several times. But it's not good because I'm not going to reach the place where what I've been begging for my whole life for somebody just to see me or witness me or, I think my mom had a major role in the gap for me. All I ever wanted to do was impress her and make her proud. And for some reason in my head, I didn't think she was, even though I kept doing these things that I was essentially proud at the moment. I never felt like I hit it with her and then I lost her. I never felt like she saw, and nothing to her because she said it all the time. My sister will tell you, all she ever talked about is how great we were. We joke all the time. I could have murdered somebody and she would have been talking about how cool the fucking murder weapon was and how nicely I stabbed this guy in the neck. Like,
I was gonna say, you could have pooped on the
I
floor
mean,
and done nothing else in life, and she
right.
would have thought you were the moon and
she would have
stars.
boxed up the poop in the kitchen and just put it on the wall. I'm like, this is the one amazing thing my son did. He put it on the floor in the kitchen. So like, believe me, she was never short of trying to validate us with the tools that she had at the time. But not me. I could not figure it out. I could not get on that checklist for her. And that fucking crushed me. And I kept going. I kept doing this thing. And when I felt alive, but I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get validation, not through her verbally, but like through me, through her, I wanted to burn the house down. I wanted to have feelings of like, what do I do for instant gratification? I want it now. I want something immediate.
You understand though now, like the difference between like codependency and seeking validation though, because there was the part of you that couldn't please her. It wasn't that you couldn't please her. She was pleased with anything. It was that you wanted to save her because you saw her as a victim. There's a totally different mindset there in saving humans, because that's not something any of us can do, including Christ. Right.
Right.
So I mean, that's the difference in like language and experience, and then starting to separate all those bits and pieces from one another when they used to just be all one big bonded emotion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I know that to be true. I know that to be true with her, but yeah, I saw it for a long time, but I dropped that when around the time she moved to Arizona off my agenda of like what I thought mom could not do, because I saw her do something that almost crushed her. Like moving was hard for her. So I dropped that part of like, oh, I don't need to save this woman anymore, but I need to show her now that she's here in my presence. Because I get to hide when I moved, I got to hide from everybody and everything. My bad days were never shown because I'm not posting it and I ain't calling anybody about them. So for me, I almost lived that early, like social media life. Like I joke now, I'm home now. And it's like, people that haven't seen me, they're like, dude, it's so amazing. You have such the fucking best life ever. so jealous. It's like, you don't even know anything about me, man. Because they've only been following me for what I've given them as information. And I think that's the ultimate thing for us to understand and learn is like, what are we giving out to the closest? What are we giving out to the people that care about us? What are we giving out? What's the story they know about you? But what's the real story about you that you're not telling them? And that's why I think I struggle with validation, like, because I wasn't even telling the whole story. I wasn't letting people know how hard it was to be alone across the country away from my family, to lose my grandfather, then lose my dad, then lose my mother, and my sisters all the way across the country. And I'm trying to build this thing. Like, I'm trying to build a validation castle that somebody you can scream from, like, I'm proud of you. And I wasn't even telling the whole truth. Right. So I think until we can raise our hand and sit in these rooms with each other and sit on our message with each other and share the real shit that's happening, the tough days, or Jason, if you had a success today or something happened or you went on this trip, like, what were the hardships to get there? You know, like, I want to know, I'm like mechanically inclined. I love building stuff. I like hands-on, like touching things, like making it. I want to know what it took to get to that picture. You know, you're standing at the top of Machu Picchu. Okay, cool. Did you train for 6 months before you went? Did you just do it that day? Was it on a whim? Did you plan for it? Has it been a dream of yours? I want to know the inner workings of what happened. Did your mom die and you did it because of that? Like, I want to know the substance of the success, because all the substance isn't success. It's freaking hard, shitty work. But if we can't even validate that, how the hell are we ever going to be impressed by ourselves when we get to the top of it? You know, I want to be impressed with myself throughout the shitty, all the way to the top. Right? I want to have the feelings of the mini highs all the way through, because I'm being honest about how hard it is and how shitty it was, or the moments that I felt directly on my face. But if I'm hiding it and not sharing with anybody, I'm just leaning into these moments of me wanting to burn down the house. I'm building them up to, like, God, how many times are we going to F this up? How many times are we going to fail? When nobody's even paying attention. I haven't told anybody. Nobody sees it. Nobody has seen my worst because I'm hiding. I'm hiding it. I'm not telling anybody. Nobody sees it around me. I'm very good at keeping it off my face. I've been expert at walking into my building and not sharing shit with any of my employees, and them never knowing I have a bad day because nobody asked me. So, yes, are you raising your hand or are you just waving at me because you're impressed?
Well, I have several questions for
Yes,
you,
go.
but my first question is I'm hearing that why don't you ever reach out to tell someone? Do you have a fear of them rejecting or not loving you, or it's
Yeah,
not safe?
burden.
Pride.
Oh, it's
Burden.
okay.
That is, yeah, maybe a little pride, but it's more burden. As a giver, I hate to put weight on people because I want to carry your weight. So if I'm putting it on your shoulders, all I feel like I'm going to do is try to get it off your shoulders immediately. So I don't tell you the whole truth.
And so the other question I would ask you is who, when you were a child, who made you feel like a burden?
I can't even answer that because I don't remember a lot. I mean, Amber has filled me in with stuff that I couldn't tell you that I recall ever happening, for a long time. I mean, Amber knows more about me. Amber she probably spent more hours with me than both my parents when I was young. I don't know. That's why I'm telling you, I think I made up the narrative in my own mind and heart. When I was coming out of high school, I started making this narrative up about a little bit of a poor me. We don't have shit. Like, my dad was heroin junkie, all that stuff, can't get his shit together. He's a brilliant man, but he can't get his shit together. Why can't he just be a freaking dad to my sister? Why can't all these things I made up this storyline of the hardship it was for me, and that's how I was going to succeed. And it's not a bad way of doing things. I'm not saying it was bad. It was just I wasn't honest about the story.
But you didn't know. I mean, we all write a story about ourselves. I didn't even know I was telling a story until I had a good enough friend to finally say, you know, I've known you now for a few years, and you tell that story often. And I was thinking, ew, like how uninteresting. Like I don't want to just walk around repeating a script about me. That's disgusting.
Right,
like I have
right.
so much more to me, but I didn't even know I didn't realize how heavy my own narrative was that I was carrying around, and how obviously important it was to me, because it was the only thing I had to say. It was like a one-trick pony.
Right.
Until I became uninterested by my own story, you know, as far as how it related to
The words
rest.
are everything, though. So to your point, Amber, you don't even realize how many times you told that. I
Right.
knew it, but it was my new person. They got it, right? And if same people around me watching me interact with a new person, they're hearing it again.
Yeah.
But more importantly, like we talked about all the time, Portia, huge on this. Like we talk about this all the time. What we say is what we are. Our words are everything.
100.
We continue to tell this same thing over and over and don't check it. Well, that's what it's going to be, right? Like I could have told a story and unknowingly didn't know some stuff. I admit to that, but I also know me. I made up some shit in there too. I know that I embellished some shit in there, not because of what I did or didn't know. Like I wasn't filling gaps. I was BSing the narrative harder so that I felt worse about myself. So I pushed myself harder to try to win. And then it's like, again, I'm not even telling the real story, and not just to you guys, but like to myself is most important. So for me, what I've been practicing is like, I'm going to continue to tell stories about my life because they're important. I think people around you need to know everything, but I'm going to keep checking my own self during the conversation. I'm going to check my own stories. I'm going to fact check the words that are coming out of my mouth. Right? Did that really happen? Like, was it really like that? Amber, were we broke?
I mean, no, Mom had a paycheck every week. We had white people problems. We had first world problems. We had everything.
But were we broke?
I mean-
When you grew up, were we broke? Not relative to the world you know now because you're enlightened. I'm saying when we grew up, did you feel broke?
I mean, no, I felt free. I mean, I knew that we were broke because like Christmas was horrible,
Right.
and people brought us groceries and stuff.
Right.
Like,
That's what I'm saying.
I knew that we were broke, but I didn't feel broke. I don't think.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
not to interrupt you, Amber.
Go
Like
ahead.
No, it's okay.
right now, I can go buy anything I want right now. I really can. I shouldn't say that, but
Well,
and my
Sure you
wife
should.
works. My wife works so much. I work so much. I just want more time together. I mean, you can have all the money you want, but big deal. I just
Yes.
want more time. Just like right now, I went to pick her up. That's the reason I was late. She told me this morning to pick her up at 5. Well, she's going to be there for another 4 hours tonight. You know, she's the president, and there's so much stuff going on, and you can have all the money in the world, but you're still a little bit. You want more
Jason.
family time.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I've heard you mention, this quality time thing for you has been a big thing with you and your wife.
Mhm.
I know she's working a lot more still, and you kind of come to the end of your career, right? As
Yep.
far as that goes. So as far as our topic goes in validation, is anything coming up for you in the current situation you're in? Because I know I keep hearing it every week in you. I know that you're starving for time.
Yeah. Supposedly it's going to start winding down. There's some changes coming and everything else. And supposedly it's going to start winding down. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I really, really am. And because right now, I mean, she's working 13, 15 hours a day.
And what do you use for coping to seek validation from your wife? Like, are you doing anything, or does anything help?
Oh, I just ding around the house, do yard work and stuff like that. And
Get stuff done.
like today, I took off today because I had acupuncture for my throat. It's been really screwing up, but it's doing a little better. But anyway, I got a few appointments lined up, and it's just little stuff. Like today, I did yard work and stuff like that. But I have plans of doing other stuff, but it's just
Amber, you came in just a touch late, but Amber, I said validation through instant gratification, and I went a little bit deeper because I'm more of an extremist when I want to treat myself or hurt myself. But Amber goes, yeah, I know instant gratification, like what, like yard work and like doing your laundry and stuff and doing the dishes. Yeah, kind of like that, but that's not what I'm going to be talking about. But,
not house chores, outside stuff.
right. But so it's the same thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I
I
think
just meant chopping the wood, whatever, something that leads to an end
Right,
where
right,
it's
right.
like you're doing it, it feels
Mhm.
good while you're doing it, and there's also a reason.
right. It's
Yeah,
like a
just like
self.
the other
And
day.
it's instant.
Yeah, and the other day, I went out. I got 7 acres of trees, and everyone's limbed up. But this time I go through it, it's time to start going back through them again. They're like 14 foot tall, so they're So I just go through with hand clippers, and something to do, and it's fun.
I
Yeah.
kind of
And
feel
it's
like
just
that's why
makes you
God,
think.
I kind of feel like no matter what religion that you honor or where you are, in the theological journey, that God gave us the earth and other people so that we would have some other stuff to do too. Like no one should be sitting around thinking about themselves all the time. Who are the people we're trying to impress and why? Whose opinions do we actually care about and why? And who are we giving to or comparing anything to? Because like for me, once I got off my own, narrative and pity party, woke up to that whole idea of like crushing that narrative and being like, wait, I can write any story I want, every day. It then just became about personal integrity. Like I'm my worst critic as far as like, to me, it's always like the only choice I have is to be a good person. And unfortunately, it's oftentimes at a great sacrifice to me. Like I had a really rough moment today, and I'm just like at a moment of my life that's like one of those. I mean, we're always in flux and things are always changing, but there's just this. It's just an odd place to be at my age, at where I'm at not having children, not being married, both of my parents being gone, us trying to figure out, stuff still every day. But like,
Hey, Amber, I said the
couldn't
same thing the other day. I said, we're almost 50, and now we're working harder than what we were, 10, 15 years ago. Same thing what you just said. You think you got everything straightened out, and you're working harder than what you are 15 years ago.
I mean, but it's like, yeah, it's a whole different level though, because we know so much more. But for me, it was like an existential moment. It's like, I kind of create my work life as the last thing. I only work to, be of service and because I have to pay rent because the law says you have to, but like, I otherwise I really would not care about that. Like I would volunteer. Yeah, if I was rich, I would volunteer all my time always. Like I wouldn't have a paying job. I don't care about those things, but I live in a world that cares. So no, I was having like a I want my mom moment, which is very rare for me.
Mhm.
Because and when I started crying, like Jay got home and I had got this wood splitter and like I was waiting and it was so cold out. We were standing out there and everything. And I just wasn't feeling 100% great. And I don't know. I was like, I exactly to your point. It was weird because I didn't know what your subject matter was going to be tonight, Mike. But there was this part of me that was feeling like, I don't like to complain. I don't like to ask for anything. I don't like to be, there's so much complaining and there's so much pain and there's so much suffering and so many people are struggling on so many levels that are so much worse than anything I'm ever going through in this lifetime. And I'm so hyper aware of that to even feel bad at all, to have a cold, to feel anything outside of 100% ready for action, I feel guilty and I feel bad because I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to ask for help. I don't want to say that I need something or that I'm hurt or that someone has hurt me. And I'm probably going to start crying and I'm fine. But I just had this like moment of, my mom's like the only person I've ever known that is like as loving as me, as far as I could just go there and she would take care of me. And since she's been gone, there's no one that takes care of me. And it's not anybody's fault other than my own. I'm sure there's been plenty of people lined up. And I have some of the most amazing friends in this lifetime that I could ever ask for or dream of. And I'm so lucky to have, an adult relationship with my brother and like, this group and, I have so much. I am fulfilled when I go in and I work with the boxers and the lives that they have and the joy that it brings and just so many levels of blessings. And just, I hate even feeling like bad or sorry for myself ever, because I don't ever want, I'm, young and strong and able and conscious and have knowledge and the ability to help. So, if I'm doing something to help other people, then boots on the ground, I feel good. I feel like my life matters, and I just hate asking for anything. And I don't know where that comes from. And I don't think it's like a self-worth issue. I thought it was for most of my life. Like, oh, I don't love myself enough to ask for it. It's not that. It's that I'm hyper aware of the suffering that exists, and my suffering is so stupid and small. And it's just weird, and I don't know, but I definitely had a moment. I'm still having it apparently, but
Well, we all have it.
Well, I appreciate that. I can appreciate that. I heard a lot of similarity in just things you said there. And I think obviously we came from the same parents and upbringing. So whatever happened or didn't happen or was, we obviously share that burdened feeling of asking. I don't know where it came from.
I don't even know what I'd ask for.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Right.
I expect some utopian
Somebody turns to
society
you and
where,
says, "What do you want?" You're like, "I don't know, actually."
yeah, actually, I wish we all lived on one big mountain where we could meet and cook lunch every day in the middle where the pool and the outdoor kitchen is. Like, it's connection, really. It's connection. I can't, if you really boiled it down to what do I actually want? I don't need or want anything, but connection in that way of like taking care of one another is something that I guess I want. I don't know.
That's a beautiful thing to want. I'll say, I want to, Portia, raise your hand, but the thing about, you guys are kind of saying the same thing, Jason and Amber, about, you work this time and you were saying to make all this money, but for what? And Amber lives kind of like, I'd only make money to pay rent because it's the law. That's like a Larry Pinky, it's a Larry Pinky comment, if you ever heard one
So
there.
great. So
Well,
great.
but
Yeah. But my point is,
living shouldn't cost anything. It's
Right.
stupid.
Right. Right.
but I guess my point to both of you is, as we get older and more wise and we do things like this and we're being a little more aware of each other and for each other and do groups like this and know and learn more, I think the work is not our job anymore. The work is this. The work is being in our own head. The work is saying things out loud, sharing, having the ability to break down emotionally to us and know that we're a safe spot. Like, the work isn't physical anymore. It is all emotional. It's all emotional intelligence. Be able to open up to the people you love, tell them what you're struggling with, say it so people can hug you emotionally, physically, Zoomy. Is that a word? Hug Zoom? I don't know.
If it is, no, it is.
Right, exactly.
It
Portia,
is.
yeah. Hug yourself in a corner, like back in school where you stood in the corner, look like you're making out with somebody, but you're just by yourself. That's a sign of, trying to seek validation. Like, I have a girlfriend, don't worry. Yeah. But yeah, like, I mean, it's huge. Like, I think the breakthroughs I've had in this group alone have brought me to such a level of importance in my own mind, like way more than I've ever accomplished anything. Anything I've done, like, it pales. It's minuscule to what I feel in these groups, what I'm allowed to share in these groups, what I'm allowed to say to you guys, what I'm allowed to be. And I have nothing but support, which has been my thing my whole life. Like, the only thing I've ever sought. So
You should start using that support.
yeah, I hear you. You give me shit all day. I know. I appreciate you. The message was, it was yeah. Anyway, you know that. But go ahead. I know you wanted to say something. Did you want to say something on?
I'm just like,
Where do you
here.
feel? Tell me. Let me ask you a question before you say anything.
What?
Where do you get? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I've spent enough time with you. I know you that I feel like. Hold on.
I just want to stop you right there. No, ever wrong.
Hold on. I want to ask you a question personally.
Yeah.
I feel like the stuff you do for all of us, the time and effort, the cards, the messages, the calls, the effort you put in to other people. Two-part question. One, where do you find your validation? Okay. Because I know for a fact, I've had the conversation with you, I am not leveling up to you. I have a lot of work. I have a lot of work in our relationship to level up to you. I know Amber can relate because you give just as much to her, but also Amber's done this to me a long time. I've not leveled up to her. So, one, where do you get your validation from when you're pouring out so much? Where do you think you got it from? And what do you do in moments today? Do you still have moments that you're lacking it?
I don't know if you've met Portia's parents yet, but they're
Yeah,
freaking awesome.
I validate myself. I know that I'm the whole and complete. Like, I know that I don't have locks around my heart, right? Like, I meet you and Amber, and can I just support you in something here? If I give you some feedback, are you open to that?
You know I am.
Okay. You both.
She asked before she said it. I love that. Sorry, go on.
The way you show up in the world to me is you have some resistance around you, right? You have some resistance around your heart, and I know that, and I live to be a loving, compassionate, and courageous leader. Like, that's who I am. And so I don't expect that back from somebody, but I can't take that into consideration, right? Because I know what you're feeling, what you're dealing with, and but I know also on the other end that is why I'm here, to do what I'm supposed to do. Whether there's any reciprocation or not, it's not about that. Like, I know that I did my job to do, and I think that's just the validation in of itself. And yeah, I think, like, sometimes for sure, like, when we get triggered that we're not validated, it's just a trigger. It's something, it's like, if you listen in your head, like, you have this radio station playing in, like, your left ear, and it's called K-Fucked radio, right? Okay. And it's
Nice.
always playing in your
I like
ear.
when Portia swears because it's not often.
All right. Well, so that's always playing in your left ear, right? And that is just, it's this imaginary song, and it's going around and around and around. And it's on repeat, and it's just telling you about all the shit that you've done in your life, and all the mistakes you've made, and how shitty of a person that you are, and whatever it is, like, whatever it is, like, it's just screwing you up, right? And it's playing all the time, and it's in there, and it's exactly what comes up when you get triggered. And, like, if you tune into the right ear, right, that's the radio of your gifts. That's the radio of you know, your voice of why you're here, your purpose. That's the people that are singing in your ear of the praise, the appreciation, the love, the support. And to turn like that static down, if you think of it like if you close your hand like this, right? Do it. Just close your hand, like squeeze it really, 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 really tight, right? And so if you look at your palm, and then you're gonna look at your palm. You have to look at your palm. You're not doing it. You're not participating.
Who are you talking to, me?
Amber,
This guy.
Amber.
This guy's not.
You all should do it. So and then when I ask you to open your palm, you're gonna look at the palm and you're gonna tell me what you see, right? So open it.
Nail
What do you-
marks.
Nail marks, right? Self-inflicted wounds.
Mm.
Exactly what we do to ourselves all long, all day.
Is that gonna come out?
It will, and then when you open it up, it's white, and that's your life force energy that you're just giving away to that K-fucked radio that's playing in your head and head. And what I would say to you is who in your life didn't validate you? Who didn't see you and hear you? And if it wasn't your mother, then it was probably your father. And then that's where your wounds lie, around your father. And it's just it's just a thing that comes up. And when that person that doesn't validate you, you don't see that person. Maybe you see or hear your father, because you're that small little boy who's 5 years old, and dad didn't validate you after you did something that you thought you should have been validated for. He didn't tell you that he was proud of you. He didn't tell you that he loved you. And so now you feel in your heart, you feel like you go back to that scared little boy whenever that happened. And that replays in your life over and over and over again.
Yeah, I never let myself consider, and I know the psychology of parenting and children and all that. I just never allowed myself to consider that my parents had anything to do with. I never got there in my mind. I never considered for a second that my parents had anything to do with who I was. And that sounds bad, but I don't mean it that way. I mean, like,
No, like you grew up and you're like, I chose.
Well, the
to-
opposite. You weren't sitting around blaming them for it.
that's what
You
I'm
were-
saying.
Yeah.
Right,
That's what-
right.
I didn't,
And
Get
I
that.
mean,
I
there's
didn't
so many.
disservice them.
100%.
Yeah.
But
Well,
what they
but there's so many levels of conversation here, because I mean, for me, I've done all that work, and like I knew very clearly who was every single. I was the record keeper. I know every single thing each one of them did that was good and bad. How it affected me, how it affected Michael, how it, la 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 la. I was like a psycho in that realm of it, trying to break it down and trying to figure it out, trying to whatever, and then. I grew above that, in the ascension game, and in the, regardless of, what you all believe or don't, I do believe that the soul travels through many, many lifetimes. And so a lot of this is, a lifetime stuff and, matriarchal, generational. I mean, this is lifetimes of work that we're uncovering and unlocking and things, not just the wounds of our fathers, although they're big and they're deep. But it's really just about, once you know better, you do better. And we start to become our own worst critic, in that, we do know the language now, and we're starting to understand what it takes. And it always comes down. We've been having this conversation since day one with this group, and thank God, and let's keep having the conversation, is that it's all the practice, right? It's all what we practice. It's all what we repeat. It's all what we practice. And unfortunately, because we're flawed in our earth suit in this lifetime, we are not perfect. And even when we're trying to practice all the good things, we're still drawn down paths and different things. You're a rare soul, and I do believe that you're an angel and you're meant to be in our lives, Portia. And you're one of the rare souls too, that Michael and I, because of our age group, but because of
I
our
keep
age,
it right there in my wallet all the time.
Yeah, baby.
You
Right
are,
there,
you're a
and I
little
read it
angel.
sometimes too.
I have them everywhere. I have one for Harold and one for me and one for me and Jay and a couple for Michael. They're everywhere in my house. I've got,
Yep, I carry, when I get upset about mom and stuff, it's always right there.
Aw. You're one of the rare souls though too, that like Michael and I don't ever like make a friend at the same time that like
Yeah.
we have individual relationships with you. And so you have this unique perspective that you get to see all the things that make us our parents' kids, but also that make us, our own environmental,
Yep. What just came up for me, two things. One was, listening to Portia talk about that, but then me validating the fact that I never took them into account to who I was. I think I just thought of this now. I don't know why I came up, but I believe that I subconsciously made myself my own shitty father. Does that make sense? Like I replaced dad because I knew early on dad was not dad parent. Dad was this cool older dude that wanted to be my boy.
Right.
And I just accepted that a long time ago. I knew it from day one. He was never like a parent. He never guided us in like responsible actions. He was just a cool dude that like a little older that let you get away with a lot of shit. Like, but I feel like what's coming up for me is I feel like I may have turned myself into my own shitty dad to put me in a drive that would put me above anything I ever thought I could do. I think
that's one of the most interesting things I've ever heard, and I love it. And it makes a lot of sense, actually, in knowing.
And it goes to the point what Portia's saying, because I obviously believe in that. I study the psychology of children and what you go through and when you go through it and how it affects you. And you are your parents' kids, one or the other, or both, combination of lacking or having. But I just never put that on mom and dad ever. I just never had that relationship with either of them. And I think I just weaponized. I turned myself into my shitty dad and tried to prove to myself, my dad, that was better than me. Like it was fucked up, but it just came up. So I appreciate that.
Interesting.
It's
Yeah.
not fucked up. That's the thing.
It's not fucked up. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I don't think putting the blame on anybody, Michael. I think it's just about your parents did the best they could with what they had. Like
Of course.
I had to carry around some things. I have wonderful parents. I grew up with a privileged childhood. But I had my own thing where like, okay, I'll give you an example.
Now we're getting there. Let's go.
Because your triggers are not who you are. All of those things that come up, that's not who Michael Pinky is, right? When you get angry, like, and I would invite you to, when that feeling comes up, how does it make you feel? And then to think about who else in your life before that made you feel that way. And I think a lot of times it might go back to your father, or it might go back to somebody early on in your primary years, because that's where we get conditioned.
Yeah.
What are you going to say about your story, Portia?
Okay, so for instance, my mother is a perfectionist. Okay, so growing up, if we had a school project or something, she would take control of that school project and she would want to do it for us, because in her heart, she wanted us to do better in school than she ever did. And she didn't want us to feel the pain that she felt. And so she thought she was doing the right thing by taking control of that situation.
Right.
And so like I was to bring something to her and say, and I want to hand this in. And she would say, no, I think we should like just do it like this way, a little different. Right. And so that's like
Totally my mom.
So
Like
I don't get the love I wanted, right? Because now mom kind of rejected me, even though she's this wonderful human and she's this beautiful lady, but being that child, you have no idea what that feels like. And so you can feel that in your body. And so the child now goes and is like, okay, so here I am, this little kid, and I'm thinking, okay, so I need to do better, right? So now I feel unworthy because mom kind of rejected me for not getting that just right. And so then we start up this pattern of every time we do well, that's when we get our validation. Nobody ever says to you like, that's fine that you got a C on that, like, don't worry about it. You did awesome. Like, you're an amazing human. You might, but then if A, guess what they do? They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You're such a cool person. Like,
Yeah.
like, and it's just like they go crazy because you got like everything right. But then when you didn't get everything right, they was like, oh, that's good job. And then you start to see that pattern in your mind. And then you remember like, well, when I got the A, I got a lot more love,
Yep.
you know? And
Oh,
so those
Yeah.
small little pieces of what made you who you are. And those are
Yeah.
all the small little pieces of
Yeah.
going through. And even like teachers are the same way. All of those things, they made you feel one certain way, or maybe you got
Oh, yeah.
rejected from a friend at school and you carried that with you. And then that pain of rejection was one rejection on top of another. And it was another lock on your heart.
Yeah, I think you.
Jason,
Yeah, go ahead.
Jason, tell us about your mom. You haven't really told us much about her. What was she like?
She
What
was
was
always,
your journey with her?
she was always there. She, no matter what, she was basically, she was me. She liked the outdoors. She liked yard work. She liked I didn't like the cooking and all that stuff, but Constance, she loved the kitchen. And she just, every time we'd go elk hunting, she was right there. And just like right here, I'll show you, I put this right there in her, it wasn't this one, but this was on my property, right? That was on my property right there. And there was another picture just about like that. It's in her casket with her. But you know, she loved elk hunting and stuff like that. And just basically, she was kind of like me.
So awesome.
And she protected me through my first basically divorce after 6 months, and she protected me through there and did all kinds of stuff. And then she supports me and my wife all the time, you know, and she's always there. And so
Sounds like a pretty special
That's-
lady, Jason.
Yes, that's beautiful, Jason.
Sounds pretty special lady.
Just share something because I didn't finish the story.
Oh, go ahead.
So that was a little girl, but
Excuse me, I'm speaking of validation. Hold on, excuse me.
happens because say you're that 7-year-old child and now you're that 17-year-old adult, right? And you're still doing the same thing, right? And so for me, that was the like, how can I keep doing better? How can I keep doing better and better and better and better? And the whole trajectory of life was, how can I keep doing better?
Right.
And that was where you were getting your gratification from, was always doing better and better and better. And I see that in you, where you were always trying to do better and better in your business, you know, and like in your own way. And a lot of times, a lot of people are not aware of their own blind spots. They
course.
don't see how they show up in the world.
Absolutely.
don't-
do that.
Because they've blocked it out, and somebody else will see it. And
Yeah.
like even like the same thing for me growing up, like I did not have a lot of friends, like a lot of people. It's very difficult to be, I think this works better because my brothers seem to have a better trajectory of this, but women do not like, well, one, I was always very kind, but I lived a very privileged life, and I that's just, you know, it's what I was born into. But going to school, like, you know, going to school at Lincoln and Seafred, and there were a lot of the kids came from parents that didn't have a mom and dad, you know,
Right.
and I would like a night, I would go home to dinner. I could go swimming in my own pool. Like I had all of these nice things, and I had a roof over my head, and my parents worked very hard, but I never had to worry about anything.
Right.
And so I was always felt obligated to give back to people who didn't have what I had, you know, and like I just wanted to be like, you put yourself out there and you just want to make friends, right? And like,
Yeah.
so a lot of people, the same thing. You don't get that same reciprocation. And so every time that happens to you and you get that rejection, you just shrink yourself a little bit more and then a little bit more. And then like in high school, the same thing. You know, people are dealing with so many of their own emotions, and we like hurt people, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so like for me, high school was, it was a
Couldn't
little,
wait to get out.
it was a little messy, right? You know, a lot of people didn't like me. You know, they really liked Andrew. He had like guys don't really care where you come from, you know, but you know, on the other hand, if you show up with nice things, people don't always like you. It's just their perspective of you. They think that you're not a very good person. And I don't think that that's ever true. They just look at you like you're not a nice person because of that, you know, which is their own thing they have to deal with. But so that was always very hard. But
This all goes back to what we talked about, though, the validation of each other. People
Right.
witnessing you weren't even settled in their own heart, right? It's like,
Hey, Portia, just like what you said, my mom and dad protected us, me and my two sisters growing up. We had everything we ever wanted. We had family always over there. We had everything we ever wanted. Dad had always helped me on my old 57 pickup. If my grandpa was always there. I had everything I ever wanted, but all my friends at high school, they're there, but I still talk to them, but they always went out and did their thing and everything else. And I always went home at night. It's just, I kind of felt a little lonely, but you know what? When I went home, I had everything I wanted.
It gets very lonely because then you start to think, what is wrong with me that nobody wants to be my friend?
mhm.
And in reality, there's nothing wrong with you. You don't realize. And the biggest lesson I had to learn is I was always a giver. I was always like, come to my house. My mom will buy you lunch. We'll do this, we'll go. My mom will take us shopping. My mom will do this. And so many people, I had to learn that once I understood that people's hearts were closed off and they didn't know how to take that in and they didn't understand what that meant, or I didn't know how that felt to them, because I always knew how to give and receive in that way. And I didn't really know why that made them feel that way. And I didn't know that people felt unworthy or they didn't feel lovable.
Right.
And I love on them and they didn't want my love, you know, and
Because
for me, it just came about, I really just stopped being me.
Yeah.
I stopped me completely. And I'll just blend in. I'll just dim my blend in.
See, that's the beauty of this system.
Well, just like,
go ahead, Jason.
well, just like I had a 57 Chevy pickup. It was completely restored in high school, but I can honestly say my dad was right there with me the whole freaking time doing it. My grandpa was, but my friends were always like, wow, look at that. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. But a couple of them would come over and help or whatever, but they always had more stuff going to do and they always helped each other. But you know what? My dad was always right there. My grandpa was always right there. And one or two of my friends were always right there, no matter what. But most of them, wow, that's a cool pickup. That's a cool pickup, but it's whatever, you know, but I can honestly say I have memory with family.
Yeah. What came up through all that is validation in the current horizon for me, especially school, is fucking bullshit. School is bullshit. It's set up in a bullshit way. We don't teach anybody the right things. It's all ancient history, like the fuck you radio. Like, what do we need to know about all the bullshit?
All antiquated.
What is going forward? Mental health, self-healing, being alone and being okay, being with somebody and being, none of that stuff's taught, except we live in school, and all it is placement and judgment. Like you said, through the teachers, through your friends,
business, right?
Yeah, through money. If you're a dirtbag, if you're not a dirtbag, if you have too much, you're not enough. Like the whole.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and no matter whose perspective, it was the same. Yeah,
and it doesn't weaponize any of us with real tools and skills to understand. Am I the bad one? Or is
Right.
there even a bad one? Or we're just trying to all figure the fucking shit out.
Growing up,
I
I
was
don't,
It's
born
it's
here,
the
you were
exact
born there.
same, it's the exact same thing that the news does constantly,
Right,
is
right.
that it's always pitting everyone against everyone else to incite some kind of civil unrest so that the government can remain the hero. It's bullshit. Nobody cares. I don't want to
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's
It's
go
all
down.
I know,
But
So that's the
we've all
validation.
had the same, we've all had the same experiences. I don't care if you were Mike and Andrew, who from the outside looked very, very popular. They like Mike has said to start out the conversation tonight, those relationships often were either based in false pretenses or coming from the same economic situation where we were just going through it, surviving together. All of us together could only afford one hoagie and we'd split it. So therefore we're bonded for life. You
Right.
know,
And there's really
for
no
me,
bonding at all.
I was I was poor and I couldn't keep up with the girls that had what Portia had or whatnot. And in high school, maybe we would have found each other because we were both kind. But most of the girls that could afford the nice jeans and the things that people thought they wanted in those days and things, thought I was not good enough or didn't have those things. And for whatever reason, without even getting to know me, didn't like me for that. My personality pushed through, but the other weird lesson in that was that I was a survivor and an opportunist in those days. So I would try to I'd start selling pot or whatever somebody wanted, I could provide it to them. So instead of my mom buying lunch like you, Portia, I would just come up with, look, I'll be Hello Dolly. Whatever you need, I'll show up and provide it. But you realize that the second that you don't have something or your mom won't buy lunch or whatever, that nobody's there. And you realize that none of those people were actually your friends to begin with. And, the people who have taken the time to get to know us through the years or that continue now or that invest our time, we keep showing up on Mondays, no matter what's going on with our life. That's where the real value is. And it's no surprise at all that any of us are friends now or that we connect even from coast to coast, all being in different places because our hearts are so similar and our experiences
Amber.
are so similar.
Yeah,
Yes,
this
buddy.
like my wife. She grew up just like you. Her dad was a timber faller. He got killed when he was 5, when my wife was 5, and her mom didn't ever remarry, and they didn't have nothing growing up. They moved 10 times a year, and they didn't have nothing. And my wife remembers that growing up. They didn't have hot water or any. Back then, if your husband got killed, they did not like nowadays or whatever. Nowadays they take care of you or whatever, but back then it was different, and they didn't have a whole lot. So my wife remembers all that, and she may be the present now and have all that she may have a lot, but you know what? She didn't forget where she came from. She'll be in line at the grocery store and she'll pay for 2 people behind her, or she'll just donate whatever to whatever. She will not forget where she came from.
Yeah. That's important for all of us, right? But
right. And that's about,
yeah. Look, it's a freaking shit show of an experience to grow up in any family. And I don't mean like your parents are bad or good. I mean like just learning how to be a human is a crazy workings of
right.
inner workings of, are these people my friend? Is this girl my friend? Does this boy like me? Do my parents care about my homework?
Terrible.
It's a nightmare. I
Right.
want nothing to do with
But-
high school, middle school ever again. I enjoyed my life, but as far as learning the stuff we can learn in 1 hour on one of these, I didn't learn shit in the school besides,
I couldn't wait
Am
to
I
get out
good
of school
enough?
to go drive
am
log
I a
trucks.
dirt bag? Am I worthy of anything? Do these kids like me? Does this girl like me? All these things of
You don't teach,
can I learn something for Christ's sake? Can I
you
learn?
don't teach any emotional intelligence.
No
Like,
emotional
none,
intelligence.
None.
No
I have
health
Some-
support,
Yeah.
Health support, sexual support,
anything.
mental health,
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
acuity, what a mortgage is going to look like, anything,
Right.
nothing.
Are you being
Yes.
mistreated at home? I don't know.
Yeah.
Caring about you. Portia,
I have to say something.
I know.
We see you. We validate you, baby.
Say it.
Um, children, most children for most part of their lives do not learn by what you tell them. They learn by how your parents show up in the world. They learn by your actions. They learn by what you see. right? And everything is imprinted on us by the adults around us in those younger years.
Right, but the adults around us are majority
Children.
of your hours in a day were teachers at school, not your parents. Majority of hours in a day, you were in an environment of people that didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
Or
right.
or care about you. They wanted to hang you out a
Right.
window or something.
They're
Yeah.
like they were
Oh,
our age. They were our age then. They were our age then, trying to get out of work and have a freaking beer and get fucked up.
Yeah.
about
We
that.
didn't know that when you grew up that like everybody's full of shit and no
Yeah.
one knows what they're doing. Yeah.
I thought this teacher
And
knew
now
something.
now
She was
we're
trying to get
almost
drunk.
50. Yeah, now we're almost freaking 50. We're all in our 40s or 30s or whatever, and we're like thinking to ourselves, holy shit, we are the people that we thought we were supposed to trust.
Right.
I mean, and we're way more together than they were, you know.
I ran into, I know all the people my age now, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, I'm flabbergasted. They are the people. They're the teachers. They're the English teacher in a local school. They're the sport. I'm like, no chance. No chance. I know you. I know you.
Yeah.
And I see you out. You're not
Yeah.
paying attention to what, like, I mean, we laugh about it, but they
not
do have a handful of future in their hand every morning. And that's a lot of responsibility. You know, one girl I know as a teacher is joking the other day. She's like, I was drunk the next morning when I went to work. It's like, holy shit. Who has control of our future?
Dr. Hill.
You have a question?
I have to tell you something.
Oh my
You are
God.
on one tonight. You're gonna hurt your hand. The blood's rushing down.
Can you just get out of a 12-hour a day intensive for like 4 days straight? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Um,
What were you gonna
No.
say?
Nobody can make you feel any way. Nobody can make you feel any way. You take on trying to throw at you, but they can't make you feel that way. You choose, it's a choice to feel
Right.
that way. So if like, say like you call somebody and you're like, oh, I'll meet you for lunch, and then they don't show up. And then so you call them and for some reason, whatever, they blow up at you. And then you're like, oh my God, like I feel so bad. Like, and then your people pleaser starts to come out, right? Because then you feel bad and you're like, oh, well, what do I do in this situation? But in that moment in time, that person was just that's their emotion, right? You're just taking on their emotion and you're putting it on you when you didn't do anything wrong in the first place.
Right.
Where did that come from?
But we're separating. I want to make something very clear though, because we're talking in a very broad aspect now. What's very clear is we're talking from our perspective today, us who have spent the time to have emotional intelligence, to spend the time to be clear about who we are and who the people around us. But what it really comes down to is at the time frame that is most important, we're not even close to having the intelligence to be aware of any of the stuff we're talking about. That's the tough part of life, really, is when I'm 14 years old, there's no fucking chance. If I listen to this group talk when I was 14 or 15, I'd be boring losers and fucking click off. I mean, because that's where your head is at the time. And it's because we haven't got taught from an early age things that we really can be taught. You could teach your kids from day one what we talk about. Day one. There's nothing wrong with it.
That is very rare.
So it's rare.
That's why I didn't have kids, is I couldn't figure out ahead of time how to keep them from like societal norms and imprints. Like I would be in prison or in jail or something. Like I would want my kids to grow up like I would have to like study how Spock was taught everything, you know what I mean? And I don't even like Star Trek, but I like Spock, you know what I mean? Like I want my kid to only know quantum physics, world history, like classical piano. Like I don't want my kids to know anything except how to like change like the world forever and generations to come.
You're not going to school.
Hey.
You're just gonna learn.
I don't want my kids to hear me, but I'm going to tell you, Amber, my
Are you
kids.
outside? Are you outside because of what
Are you hiding?
like
Oh, I went to the hot tub room. I'm out here in the hot tub room.
Oh, look at you.
Oh, your life is so.
Oh, yeah.
Look
I-
at you.
He's
that-
invited
kids
us
are in
to
the other room.
Oregon a
Yeah, in the hot
1,000
tub
times,
room.
guys. We're all invited. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm just on
but
my couch.
I was gonna say, my kids can drive me nuts, and sometimes I wonder, did I raise them right? Did I raise them? But I'll tell you what, I can have 10 people come up to me and say, man, you did awesome raising your kids. I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, I mean, I go and tell them to do something. They're basically, whatever, but anybody else, they'll see an old woman walking on the street, they'll go open the door for her, or they'll go, and like what right now, my boy's home from Hawaii, he's driving me nuts right now, but I got ready to pull out my hair because he's in the same house. Well, now he's in Walport at the ocean elk hunting, so that's okay. But I meant, yeah, we butt heads, but he can go anywhere, and everybody goes, man, your kids are so kind and awesome. I'm like, huh? So
Pretty
that makes you
amazing,
feel
huh?
so good.
I'm not a parent. You're the parent on here, but that's got to be the most rewarding thing for all the years put in to have a stranger, even because that's validation, right? It's
That'd
like
be like the highlight of my life.
my biggest
You
fear
kidding
is
me?
being an amazing father. Like I've always
I'm not bragging right now because I still have a 16-year-old,
go ahead and
and
brag.
you
he'll
should.
just do
You should.
this.
You should do that, though.
I go, put it this way. I go, hey, how was your day, Cooper? Fine. Walk out. And I said, well, you want to go do this? Nope. I'm like, holy, he's the same leptica as my oldest one. And it's like, but he'll do, like, if I fall or he knows I'm hurt, and he's right there just giving me a hug and doing everything that he can
Well,
do.
you should
bringing me this
probably
and that.
you should
And
probably like study his schedule and just be laying in the dirt everywhere he goes.
He's got a girlfriend, and I asked him about he's in his girlfriend, so
That's
Just be
right.
laying in the dirt.
Always get hurt around
I'd be
this big idiot.
playing
Like a
help all
car.
day, like help.
trust me, he'd figure it out real quick. He'd basically say, screw you. He knows when I'm serious. He's not dumb.
Maybe be a better actor. I don't know.
Well, look at this is just these are just the proof that validation matters because we show up for each other, period. And without these, we're not learning anything, right? I mean, we learn something every week from each other, one another, witnessing. These things for me is validation in my heart. It's just like consistency for me. I need more consistency in my life. I need to show up more, model more, and this was the start of one of my projects to like prove to myself that I only need the weapons that I built for myself to validate myself. Like Portia said, like we need to validate ourselves first in our own heart, and then it becomes easy to either let somebody give a shit ton to you or just let them be them, and you don't get a whole bunch back, but you still love them because you're going to be you. Right. And if the validation doesn't start in your own heart, then what do we got? So I'm a firm believer in that you can't do anything alone. We're not meant for that. Isolation will kill you. So it's not about walking alone. Amber, I feel you every day because we are the same person more than we've ever even admitted to each other. And we are the same in that. That's why we have a hard time receiving from each other as much as we want to ask from each other. So you and I need to bite that in the ass because it's been too long and it's time,
Yeah, well, I like to get together every single Sunday. I like to eat food and play with dogs and I would like some
I
nieces
go,
and
it's so
nephews.
weird.
Yeah, and I'm ready for your babies and stuff. I want to hold them and kiss them and like love them forever and steal them from you all the time. And yeah,
Anyway,
I'm always here for you. I'll come anywhere. I'll come anywhere you are any day of the week. As soon as you're ready, I'm just whenever you're.
I know. I just mean in general of in honor of validating one another and ourselves, like all of us, I just want to, that's important. Like it starts in the center and that's it. So I appreciate you guys. Let's see what we did here. All right. So we did an hour and 21 minutes. That's pretty good.
That's
Wow.
perfect. That's probably our
Yeah,
average.
really.
'Cause we always get cut off, and
That's
I love
about
you
good.
all very much.
Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing.
Portia, let's just go to lunch.
I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
One,
It cannot be a cutout though. It has to be something personal about you.
okay, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. But
Go ahead. Go ahead. Just close it down.
Just good.
triggering you, you don't have to live with them, right? When you can get to you can let them all go, okay? And I know that sounds like it sounds, I don't know what it sounds like to you, but just know that you can get to a place where you don't have to get triggered by all of these things and people and feel this weight or burden some days that are holding you down.
Mm,
Like, you don't have to feel like that. And it takes time and it takes work, but I know it's possible for everyone.
I agree.
And I
agree.
Go-
To your point, my friend Alex and I have this conversation all the time. Like, for whatever reason, we were friends during the period in which we both made this like quantum leap change in our personalities in life, where we always were, the emotional reactors to everything, whether it was our parents or our relationships we were in or whatever was going on. And I'm a little bit older than her, and she kind of watched me go through the change first, and she remembers me talking about it and everything. And then years later, we're still friends, and we lived a little bit distance apart. And she called me and she's like, "Oh my God, it happened to me. I thought that was just something you talked about and whatnot." And it happened to her too. And we were talking about how there's this learning curve of like, we go through the adolescent and post-adolescent part of our life where we're reactionary, and our passion translates sometimes as anger or sadness or exploding or confrontational or shutting down, or however we deal with things. And then, when we learn to cope and we learn to stop reacting, and we learn that, like what you said earlier, Michael, about burning knowing that
Yeah.
we're capable of burning the house down. Well, whoop-de fucking do. Like, yeah, I'm still capable of it. And it's not that I can't think about it, or I wouldn't make a good criminal, or all the good things, or all the things.
All the good things.
I didn't mean to say that, but
Yeah.
not
Did,
all
but
the, not,
did you not
not,
though?
not all the good things, but to my point is that we can be anything we want to be. And yeah, I can burn the house down too anytime I want, and I'm capable of going there. And I think any of us can be triggered at any point, but there comes a time in your life where you do let it down, to your point, Portia, and you start to, there's almost a point to follow where then you almost mourn the old reactive self. Like, when I stopped reacting in the way I used to, when I used to just be a complete psycho, and I was totally entitled to not only tell you about you, but about how I felt about it, and in whatever fashion I felt it come to the surface. Then I stopped doing that. I started to like mourn that part. Like, oh, I kind of miss reaction. Like I now I'm kind of, it's like boring not to react. And then you finally find peace, and it does come. And but it's part of the whole aging and experiential and trusting and energy.
Yeah.
But so to your point, the triggers do start to weaken. It's not that they're there, you notice, but it's how you want to show up for whatever comes up, going forward. And,
What are you
and
gonna let it do to you?
acceptance. Yeah,
It's a-
exactly. And what's
Right.
the point? Like, what do I want the outcome to be?
Right.
Yeah.
can I just ask you a question?
Who,
Can I ask all of you a question?
Yep.
What does self-love look like for Michael? What does Michael do for his self-love?
Are you asking me out loud?
Yeah, I'm asking
I can answer it.
self-love. How does he
What do I do
feel?
for it?
It's not. It's literally being of service to others. It's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to work for you because
No.
because what does Michael do for himself that is going to get him so that he doesn't feel this way when he's always giving? What does Michael give back to himself?
Yeah. That's exactly the point. That's the point of this.
What does Amber give back to herself?
Right.
The way I see you show up in the world is you don't ever give anything back to yourself.
What do you mean? Every Saturday I do my roots and paint my nails and do my laundry, and I you know,
That's the instant-
Amber, I love you
take-
so much for that.
yeah, I try to do
man.
a beauty. I try to do a beauty day. I try to shower like 4 times.
Like, I tried to do my
a week,
roots,
you
do my
know?
nails a little bit. We're good.
Self
I brush
love
my
is
teeth like once in a while. It's
self-care.
fine.
Yeah, and self-love is having integrity and being honest and continuing to show up when I don't want to.
Right,
It's
right.
it's showing up when I don't want to. It's continuing to be kind. It's continuing to be
No, I don't-
loving. Even it's continuing. No, that is self-love. It's continuing to love others even when they're not loving to me.
Amber, that's a mindset. If you're showing up somewhere and you don't want to, that's resistance.
That's my entire life. I didn't want to be born here, Portia. You don't know enough about me.
That's just going to give you a little feedback there that you should, that's the trajectory of life there for you. Just
All right. So
you
listen,
can't.
My parents should have rethought having me.
we're
It's
gonna-
fine.
we're gonna
And
listen.
back to you
Listen.
feeling
Self-love
like
should be the next one.
Yes.
Right? That's,
Yes.
that's
Hi, Jason.
We're
Yeah.
gonna move this. We're gonna move this into the next one because we're going long now and we're getting off the
Right.
topic. So I'm gonna end
Yeah,
it
this
here.
is what lunch is for,
Self-respect.
Portia. Let's go to
We're gonna
lunch.
get it back into the next one we go because we're not gonna be Zoe next week either. Zoe's off for a few weeks, so through the holidays. So
We're
we'll come
on.
back next week. We'll continue on a new topic because we can go. Obviously, we can all go down. this
And the
topic.
only
Yeah.
reason I would give feedback is because I want you to live your best life.
Hey,
I want you to
Shut
live
it.
your best.
shut it.
We're good.
Okay. Yeah,
Love
but
you.
you're
You know where people shut down though is when you and I learned this from my editor when I wrote the book. Nobody wants to be
Am I on
told
mute or
what to
something?
do.
I didn't
What?
tell you.
Am I on mute or something?
I feel like you are.
No.
Okay, I said we're ending this meeting.
Hey,
Damn
Amber.
it.
What,
Hey,
Jason?
Amber, this is what you got to look forward to when you come to Oregon.
Oh,
Oh
geez.
my God, that looks terrible.
All
Put
right,
the
there you
massage
go.
bed right next
fine,
to
we'll
it.
do the next one. at
I
your
guess
house.
we're gonna go.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Love
you
y'all.
guys.
All right,
All
guys.
right. Love you
Appreciate
guys.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.